Oh, yes. That is super smart. That is amazing. That is a unique property. Every so often, a new product comes out that kind of gets really, really hyped, often around YouTube or content creators or videos, much like this one, I guess. And if those products are great, they'll get hyped and spread around in the way that they were intended to be used in a fairly prescriptive fashion. If they are excellent, people will experiment. Normally it takes a little bit of a while, but people will find out their own ways to apply them. Maybe that'll happen in this video, who knows? Today, we're going to be discussing Newsh from Monument Hobbies. This is a medium, so if you've used any medium, lamium medium or stuff like that, you will have the concept of how these products work. You just dump them in with your paint, and there's been some big claims made about this one. We're going to jump in and we're going to do some experimentation and see what the flaws are and what the ceilings are, and if there's anything, there is, spoilers, that maybe we weren't told it could be used for, or ways that you can apply it or speed it up or hack it. We're going to get down to nitty gritty and we're going to try and break it and see if we can kind of ascend it to the next level. It's time to get scientific. We need a costume change. I am not too certain whether I bought a child's one or not. Maybe they're meant to have short sleeves because of chemicals or something. Anyway, we have a lab coat. We're very, very serious now. Okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to take you through my process of experimenting, and this is going to also follow a rough format for how I would suggest you try experimenting with technical products yourself. Work out what you'd like to get from them, work out what the manufacturers taught you about them, and then find a middle ground or a way to best suit them to your uses or your requirements, you know, speed painting, airbrushing. Great place to start. This is what Monument say about it. ProAcryl Newsh is the perfect non-toxic acrylic solution for applying weathering or grime effects to your models. Simply mix with any of our ProAcryl colors, apply over your models and wipe away the excess to reveal the paint underneath. No chemicals required. Nice. And they've got a video which is really comprehensive of Jason using it on a pretty tasty looking dreadnought. There's going to be less precision here. So Monument's attention is to bring out a acrylic medium that will help you get kind of oil paint based properties out of your acrylic paints, not just theirs, all acrylic paints it'll work with. Maybe certain brands might not behave perfectly with it, but it should behave pretty amazingly with everything, even if it behaves slightly better with their own paints because they've designed it with that in use. So let's get a list together. The known key properties that we've got that we need to test are retardation, so how long it's going to take to dry. It's really going to retard the drying time, and that's very, very useful for a number of reasons. Something that oil paints do as well, maybe even have to leave them overnight. Mixability, it's going to mix with all acrylics. We'll put that to the test. What about different types? Contrast, inks, standard layers, bases, that type of stuff. It's definitely pretty thick, so it's very viscous. How are we going to dilute it? Do the ratios matter? What are the ratios? That type of stuff. Can you put it in with like airbrush thinner and blast it through an airbrush? I'm very surprised I haven't seen anyone testing this yet, because that's obviously a really efficient way to get things down. Not only that, but it works well with streaking grime, and this could be compared in terms of application potential. So on that matter, it's reductive use. So a lot of the intent for this is for you to cover an area with it and then remove it with something, which is going to be some type of a tool. Can be a paintbrush, doesn't have to be a paintbrush though. Makeup sponges are what I've seen used or tested elsewhere. Now, really importantly, you could probably drink this stuff. It's an acrylic medium. Don't drink it, obviously, but it's safe and it's really user-friendly. So that's a huge plus of it. Does that come with any downsides, you know, or are we really sacrificing something for not getting out the mineral spirits? Guess we'll have to find out. So, oil paint properties. Can it do these? And if so, to what degree? What is the working time? Can it be as reductive as oil paints? Can you like 100% remove it, especially if you've applied it over a varnish or something like that? Oil paints have really low surface tension when you put them with thinner, and that's how you can do panel lining and stuff like that. Given that this is thick, I don't think they're going to work like that. Maybe we can get an approximation with the reductive method in some way though. We will test that out. Does it have the same degree of nice, like user-friendly, organic, playful use that oils do, which is one of their huge pluses? That coupled with the fact that you don't need to worry about chemicals, it's not nasty, you don't have to worry about, you know, whether it gets on your skin or anything. All of those real pluses, so hopefully we can keep the fun and the usability whilst chucking away all the negatives. All right, so we're going to test. Mixing and dilution. Application tools, very, very important. Drying and working times, will it naturally dry? Can you speed it up? Is there a negative to a hairdryer? How long do you have to leave it? Does it have reactivation issues? Will it 100% seal? No, it's not bad, it's just a property, but do we have it there? Can you 100% remove it if it's gone down over a varnish especially? Or how long do you have to wait until that's no longer possible? Viscosity and the properties attached with that, the dilution, and is it just fun to use? Really, really important, and I think massively neglected in terms of paint reviews and property reviews that you see on the internet. So if you can think of anything that we've missed, is there something that we need to test it with or something like that, or you have indeed done your own experiments, then by all means, please pop them below. If there's something that looks really good and looks like a really great piece of information, we will copy it into the pinned comment underneath this, which will be the one from us. So scroll down there if you want to see some tips for use, and we really appreciate you guys getting involved. All right, let's jump into the testing session. All right, we have 6 drops of Newsh and 1 drop of water. Pick kind of Monuments paints to go in it because that seems like a relevant test. Pick something strong, mahogany. Nice typical weathering color we've got here. This is a paint, not a wash, for those of you not familiar. Monument make really high quality, pretty strong paints. So this should be a perfect test case. And I'm just gonna go for 2 drops. 3 drops, because I think the drops of Newsh that come out of the other bowl are bigger. Give it a thorough mix. It's an acrylic, so you really shouldn't have kind of major issues with mixing at all. It should really behave itself. It's physically quite thick, and I'm just gonna lather it on. Okay, so we've used quite a lot there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's our first learning point done, and it's a decent one, so you're gonna need to put on a little bit more. It is a reductive product, so the idea here is that you're going to be putting it on and you're going to be taking it off. So by definition, you're kind of going to be putting on more than you used to. 1. I'll try and go as fast as possible. I'm using about their ratios. I feel like I'd like more water in it, but I think it's always good to at least start out with the suggested ratios from your manufacturers. The more 3-dimensional something is, the more of an issue you'll have with it. And the longer things will take to dry in recesses because they have less airflow to them. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna do 2 very thin applications at the top, pick 2 flatter ones. I'll have to poke it into the recesses, but I'll apply it a little bit more like I'm doing a base coat. Obviously that's still a pretty thick base coat, but hopefully you get my drift. Okay, let's put a timer on. Okay, so we are coming up to the 45-minute mark. I was able to remove stuff at 15 minutes, 30 minutes, roughly. You can see it's got a little bit harder. Sorry, 30 minutes is here. The stuff in the recesses is taking a long time to dry. And actually, by far my favorite tool is a finger. So let's see, around the 45-minute mark now, you can see that this one looks like it's kind of tacky to the touch. It's dried quite a lot. See what I can do with, by far my favorite tool so far. Still definitely reactivatable. I'm covered in mess. All right, so let's have a look at it on a white one. Much easier to see what's going on. I think whatever you're using, you only want it to be damp, unless you're trying to do particular types of streaking with a brush or something like that. You don't want it to be pulling off your removal tool to any degree whatsoever. So you can see we've still got a really good ability to almost completely remove it. That's after 45 minutes. Now I did put that on thick. Something that's absolutely worth noting is if you want to be leaving the rivet holes, there's just nothing that has beaten a finger so far. Let me grab a makeup sponge. You can kind of draw with these, they've got corners, but as far as I'm aware, that's, like, they're all right to work with. But you can see it's not removing to the same degree that a finger is. Finger's pretty tactile. Now they're going to be able to reach places a finger can't, especially if you've got fat ones like me. So they do have pluses, but I mean, for me, that's just really good quality. I am tempted just to see what a normal cloth does, like an old white t-shirt or something like that. But that's a really good quality of removal there. So you can work on this for a long, long time. Now, when it is completely dry, no matter what tool you're using, that's locked. So kind of amazingly, if you think of it like Photoshop or something like that, that layer is locked where it's dried fully now. That's 15 minutes. It was removed at 15 minutes, and it's had 30 minutes to dry on the raised areas. I could just go in with Newsh again at this point, which is kind of amazing. And I could do the same thing with a different color. So that is a huge plus, because if you were going in with an oil or something like that, you would be at risk of reactivation. And we know that in our hobby, that's a real problem because you're working on small things with potentially lots of layers, and it is sad to kind of have done something amazing and be at risk of waking it up again. So even if I put more Newsh on, and often it's the same with products that will reactivate themselves, we're still good. That's fucking great. That is a triumph. That is super smart. That is amazing. That is a unique property. And that's the type of thing that you're searching for when you're trying out a new technical product. While we're here, it goes kind of without saying, the ones where I applied it thin on purpose, let's have a look at those. They've dried much faster. We're not getting a lower quality of result or anything. I think I can still pretty much 100% remove what's on there, but there is a finite time. So the thicker you put it on, the longer you can remove it for. But whatever you do, there definitely is a finite working period. Yes, I'm licking my finger, get over it. It's an acrylic medium. I don't mind if I end up with a bit on my skin. It's fine. Don't worry for my health, YouTube. We're all okay. This is the joy of using something that isn't using harmful chemicals, is that if it gets onto your skin, it's fine, which is really nice to have to not worry about. So you can see here where I've put down a thinner layer. That's fully dried. I can't do anything about that. That's done now. That's locked. So this has already been a really useful experiment. I mean, we've worked out what tools we should be using. Finger's great. Makeup sponges, semi-useful. We'll try it out on some models, but I don't think this is changing the world. So I've just wastefully bought a bag of 20. Let me try out one more thing, because I do have a favorite product that I always keep in my drawer for this type of occasion that I have lost. This is the sleeve of an old t-shirt. So rather than trying to reinvent the wheel, what we got here? Oh, look, it's great. What a surprise. Cotton's incredible. Okay, yeah, that's brilliant. So it sticks out a bit more than a finger. So as you can see here, we've scooped into recesses like the rivets, which we didn't at all with our finger. With the skin. But as far as being tactile, you know, I can fold this over, I can get a corner, I can just go to a clean bit, and I could just chuck this in the wash afterwards as well. Again, no chemicals, just wash it in the sink, could go and rinse it, can make it more wet if I wanted. You don't want to oversaturate it though. That's really good. So you want something not fluffy that doesn't stick out. A glasses cloth is what I was looking for. I've normally got a little one in my drawer. If you want pin washing, finger's your best bet. You can't get pin washing with this because it is thick. And so I think that's probably the only somewhat disingenuous comparison to make with an oil wash. This will not run down cracks or panel lines or stuff like that like an oil wash. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, this is what an oil wash will do. Okay, so let's cover something that Newsh cannot do, pin washes. So for those of you that don't know what one is or would like to see it, because it's always quite satisfying, I'm just gonna mix an oil paint. What have I got? Black. I'll mix an oil paint with some thinners, a little bit faffy. It is kind of magic. We are going to get the magical properties of absolutely zero surface tension and them kind of running down some gaps. Let's demonstrate that. It's one of Tarot's squares. They're kind of a cool practice piece, and they have a bit literally designed to show this off. So hopefully, I've only got one take, pressure. Let's see what this can do. Wow, that's satisfying. Aren't you clever? That's James Tarot that's clever, not me. All right, I don't need to do Newsh because it won't do that, right? Or should I? Maybe I should. So to make a rough ratio of what we need, we know how this is gonna go, right? This is a foregone conclusion, but yeah, so that didn't work, right? Fairly obviously. We can kind of dab it in there, but it's not gonna do much. What we have to do instead, and this is fine, and we've already discovered that it's absolutely fine, is poke it into the recesses, then remove it off. That works. It's not always doable, and it's not nearly as efficient as putting a dot here and then suddenly you've perfectly blacklined halfway down the piece that you're working on. So we can't do that. Just get it out of the way. That's not doable, that's not achievable. What ways around this are there? And there's a huge thing that I'm looking to test, and that is blasting this through the airbrush and then doing reductive stuff. So let's see how that goes. Okay, our experiments continue. So straight away, in terms of its viscosity, it's super thick. So we're gonna have to do something around that. I'm just gonna try it with thinner. I don't see any reason why that would present a problem. It's got to flow out right. So we're gonna have to use it wetter than intended and instructed on the normal instructions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're little drops. This is why ratios are difficult. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So So I don't use tiny gauge airbrushes generally, so I should have an easier time with flow here than you will. If you've got like a less than a 0.3, which I don't actually recommend for like army painting, you might have some issues, but we should be able to get this to blast out somehow. I think I need more paint than that. I'm still using the mahogany here from Procryl. I still need to test it with contrast, but what if we use it with contrast and through the airbrush? Okay, so no going back, just gotta go for it. Obviously it's gonna dry it as we go, so yeah, we just have to hold in mind that's gonna happen. It's kind of not going into the cracks. So there we are. I don't know how little time I have to act. I'm gonna be ready with a wet finger, and we've got a cloth as well, so let's just start experimenting. Hey, hey, this is already good, right? Genius, absolute genius. Well, let's just see what happens. So they've intended it for use with a brush. This is going pretty quick. I'll give it a go with a brush. Okay, airbrush application is just absolute win. I do not see why you would not be doing this. I don't see any disadvantages of putting it down that fast. It's pretty convenient. It's ended up in the recesses enough. And I've put down a thin, nice coat all over that's gonna dry faster than if you put it down as a brush application. So that's great. That looks really cool. I can move that to the degree that I want. I can move it lots using the Supreme tool of the finger, and it just takes it, wetting it. Let me grab my bit of cloth. I'm just gonna put it over a finger. There, so I've only got one thickness of it. I've kept it quite tight. It's not sticking out that much. Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. That is great. Oh, that's so good. Look at that. I mean, my dry brushing underneath was a good set of colors. That's wonderful though. That is really, really good. This is why you experiment, guys. This is the cloth's dry, by the way. If it was wet, I think it might be pulling a little too aggressively. Right in a bundle. My God, Jesus, that looks great. How good does that look? That's brilliant. So we've got a perfect complement to dry brushing here because we've taken care of the raised areas. This is something that Jason covered on his video. And then this is taking care of the recesses, but my God, does that look good. That looks insane. Closer in. That just looks great. That's fantastic. I'm gonna force dry that. I don't think there's any disadvantage of using the hairdryer. And then I'm gonna go in with a brighter, rustier orange because I think that would look cool. And in theory, I don't need to seal this once it's dried, which is the most unique property of the Newsh so far, I think, that I've found. Let's see if I can 100% clean some sections with my finger as well. Why not? Guys, the finger. Everyone's overcomplicating things with sponges and stuff like that. Bit of cloth and a finger. It's just so much more tactile. Really great. I kind of want to dry brush that again. I could dry brush it again. I could dry brush it again. I'm going to dry brush it again. Okay, let's dry it. I'm going to dry brush it, re-dry brush it, and then we're going to do another Newsh step. This is great. Okay, so let's go in. If you're interested in the colors, by the way, that I used, none of these have got great coverage until you get to the Sybarite, by the way, so you could absolutely do it over grey base, or you could mix a bit of a heavy coverage colour in like a Xandri dust or something like that. So this is the sequence we've gone through. Maybe I can do. Tell you what, it is so pleasant to be playing with something that behaves a little bit like an oil and just not worrying about brush licking, water, different chemicals. Fast and easy and loose and enjoyable tactile experience. Let's get out the chunk. Might have removed a bit too much there. No, we didn't. I have done this before. Obviously, this is all in the same color. If these grills were metal or something, especially if they were brass, this would look insane. It would look so good. So interesting being able to just lay over layers without having to varnish it or anything. Really, really, really cool. In fact, let's test that. We're here for testing, right? Quick hold your glaze. And then let's pick, let's go for Doomball. Let's try a non-pro acrylic paint. Maybe I'll put some Troll Slayer in, why not? Contamination close-up, just for you guys. So I don't think the ratio that you dilute it with matters. If you want it to behave wetter, you like go for it wetter. Maybe I should just airbrush this as well, but let's try doing something a little bit more selective. We should still get some working time out of this. Screw it, it's not about being neat, is it? And then let's force dry it with a hairdryer. I do think hairdryer is a useful tool to have when you're working with stuff like this. Or maybe we don't need that finger first. I'll make sure to wash my hands because it stays on hands a little bit more readily than... oh wow, that looks really good. Try the cloth again. That's great. Okay, for me, this is the strength of it, I think. Just being able to play, jump between different techniques, not have to worry about varnishing or, you know, a specific step or care for trying to keep the permanence of previous steps. Really, really good. Get some staining on it. Yeah, super nice. This is it, guys. This is how you should be using it. And this is fun. An underrated property in judging the quality of paints and stuff. This is just a joy. Amazing. I think we've got all the discoveries we need. That looks great too. And it was at this point that Byron realized that he'd f***ed up. We were actually going to call it there. I was trying to get too fancy. I diluted too much because I was trying to use softer things. You got to use strong paints with this, otherwise you're just going to screw with your proportions. If I've got, you know, a mix that is meant to be like mostly Newsh, a strong paint and a dash of water to taste, the moment I use something soft, Skeleton Hood being our soft one, you're going to drastically skew the ratios, and your unique properties you've got from your majority liquid, they're maybe no longer the majority liquid and things are going to start going wrong. So don't get too fancy, but do experiment. I think you're going to need to drop in like strong contrasts, strong inks, strong paints. This is what it's been designed for, but how you apply it, how thickly you apply it, what you remove it with, fingers were our favorite, stuff like that you can definitely experiment with. I'm gonna leave it here, go forth and test it. The best couple of suggestions will receive a texture palette of their choosing and a brush set of their choosing from us. We'll post them out to you. And not just the best two, but any good comments below on the results of your experimentation coming up when you've got it, or maybe you've already experimented, we will copy and paste those into the sticky so people can kind of use that as a repository for information. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, please comment, please subscribe if you're not already, hit that bell notification, and stay tuned for some pretty exciting future content that we've got coming up quite soon. Also, if you back the Kickstarter, these are about to ship, so we're very, very excited to see those in your hands. They'll be shipping this month. All right then, thank you very much for watching. See you in the next video. I'll link 2 videos here where I don't screw something up. It happens every now and again.